first presenter is Heleen de Tooy. Heleen is completing a Master of Science in Sustainable Development at Uppsala University in Sweden. She spent the fall 2023-2024 semester at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam as an exchange student under the Erasmus Plus program, where she attended the law faculty for a minor in global justice, climate change, and migration. She holds a master's in architecture from the Tshwane University of Technology. In her thesis, she explored new build typologies for receiving, documenting, and housing asylum seekers safely and with dignity. She has been a practicing architect since 2011 and spent 5 years at the Development Bank of Southern Africa as a technical design expert in the Infrastructure Delivery Division. Her current academic interests meet at the intersection of the built environment, climate change, and human rights, and includes climate-induced migration and displacement. So thank you, Heleen, for starting our webinar. Over to you.
Climate mitigation goals. The Climate Action Tracker tracks 39 countries and the EU, covering around 85% of global emissions. This tracker found that we are consistently missing the goals of the Paris Agreement of 2015. Civil society, governments, and policymakers are unable to sufficiently restructure and implement mitigation action fast enough. So if policy adjustments and their effects are too late, what are we to do? So instead of trying to attempt further policy adjustments, we could simply accept the IPCC RCP 8.5 scenario and plan accordingly. The IPCC is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the UN's body for assessing the science related to climate change. In this scenario, RCP 8.5, whilst and on the alarmist side of the spectrum, by the year 2100, many habitable areas might no longer exist or will become uninhabitable, which could result in human migration from current climate niches to new climate niches. The term climate niche is an ecological concept that speaks to the optimal, suitable combination of conditions in which an organism can satisfy the basics of feeding and reproduction. The human climate niche is positioned at a rather cool 13 to 15 degree annual mean. And while modern humans can control their living environments through technology with mechanical cooling systems, the most vulnerable and poor will not be able to live outside this human climate niche. So it's important to understand the religious aspects of climate change and its cultural origins, since religious institutions, people, and ideas influence the construction of the meaning of climate change. This must be an interfaith dialogue as different religions, systems interpret climate change differently, and some are caught up in denialist politics. For millennia, human populations have been migrating from undesirable, hostile, or unsustainable environments, literally to the proverbial greener pastures. The UNHCR identifies 3 major reasons for climate migration. First, sudden onset events such as storms, floods, and wildfires. Secondly, we've got slow onset events such as droughts, changes in precipitation patterns, and salination of freshwater rivers due to rising sea levels. Third, climate change-related conflict. A reduction in land area could most likely increase competition for resources and spark conflict. In a 2100 scenario, it is crucial to prepare the international community to accept displaced people and allow them access to pass through their territories to reach new land, new opportunities, and to create new settlements. The highest temperature on Earth can be found in equatorial areas. While the equatorial area's temperature increases to become uninhabitable, temperatures outside the 30-degree longitude could become much milder. Glaciers, ice-capped polar regions, Arctic tundra, and Greenland might be transformed as the temperature at the poles increases and the ice melts. Since glaciers often feature prominently in ritual practice, climate change may also be driving religious change. Communities who inhabit these affected areas might, in future, navigate environmental change through cosmological or theological modes of understanding. The polar tundra in Russia and Canada would be transformed into grasslands and savannas. Patagonia could have a temperate climate, such as the Mediterranean, and Western Antarctica could be the green forest and mountains reminiscent of New Zealand. As our urban landscapes will continue to change, municipalities need to prepare for climate change as well. Most cities have ambitious planning and development documents, but they often lack long-term strategies aimed at climate resilience. Uppsala municipality, where I live, for instance, is addressing the concept of a future city through outreach programs with residents. This future city vision is not just driven by the experts, but by those citizens who will live in this future city. But here's the general challenge about climate change. Slow onset climate events are just too abstract to fully comprehend and envisage the effects fully. But in Uppsala, the conversation has begun. Climate change raises unavoidable ethical questions. There is a wide range of engagement with climate change from various communities and traditions of religious thought. Research has focused more on empirical measures of religiosity. In North America, for instance, white American Republicans and evangelicals are more likely to be deniers of climate change. And Indigenous people often draw on religious or earth spirituality themes in political discourse. Our 17 US SDGs include the world's best plans to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Our environment is changing rapidly, and while several adaptive strategies are already proposed, employed, funded, and in development to assist vulnerable communities, some climate events and their aftermath will not be mitigated by agile and adaptive strategies. We must accept that there will be mass migration within the next few decades and that new destination climate niches, housing requirements will increase and intensify existing housing crises. In my current research, I'm curious as to how migrants manipulate and exploit existing infrastructure en route to a final destination. The investigation into housing opportunities and accommodation during the journey is an important component of the research. The outcome of the research could give us clues to enhance well-being, safety, and dignity during future mass climate migration journeys. Fully understanding climate change requires a broad interdisciplinary approach and consideration of its religious aspects, especially the way religion is involved in human experiences of and human responses to climate change. Climate change studies should include investigating how it is interpreted by religious patterns of mind and formations of practice. Science only cannot address issues such as migration, religion, justice, human rights, and international law on its own. Thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you, Heleen.